right. Oh, man. Oh. All right. Oh, man, we are perfect now. Okay. Teddy, do you mind if we just start the show with no bullshittery?
Yeah, please do. We got a very special guest tonight.
We do have a very special guest. Okay, so hey everybody, my name is Matt, and welcome to the Real Three Idiots podcast. Now, like I said, normally we bullshit a little bit before we get started, but I'm way too excited to waste any time. Okay, we have such a great show today, and we need to just get it on. Yeah. So with me, as always, is the man I'm sure is from another planet, Teddy.
Well, that would make Mack Maloney's theories interesting if I was from another planet.
No, I absolutely Ted. When we're all done, and Mac is done, and he's talking to his buddies, and he tells everybody what a horrible show this is and what insanity ensued, he will be like, "Yeah, one guy seemed really unnormal, and the other guy was insane."
It's called paranormal, by the way.
Dude, we're a pair of abnormals, I think, is more like it. Okay, let's get to our special guest. Our special guest is a world-renowned author, a podcast host, a man who has made music for aliens, and is a UFO expert. Please welcome to the show, Mack Maloney.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for asking me on.
Hey, it's great. You know, I did some research and everything, and you know, your name just came up everywhere.
He's all over the internet. In fact, I just saw, and sir, don't quote me on this, but I saw that you have at least minimum 43 published books, sir.
Yeah, sir is my father.
Okay, I won't call you sir then. So
yeah, it's over. It's like over 50. It's
50,
over 50.
okay.
You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to. When it's that number of books, you don't really want to admit it. You know, but
it's like your birthday. You lose track. You don't want to talk about it when it's like you're over a certain age. You don't want to celebrate your birthday.
Well, it's like in those 50 books, I probably made as much money as Stephen King makes in one book. You know what I mean? So after a while, you just want to not think about how many books that you actually have out there.
But that's still impressive to actually publish 50 plus books, and put it out there, So and you definitely have a fan club, because I mean I did a little research, and you definitely have some fans out there.
Well, yeah, sure. We've been doing it for a long time. We've been doing it for a long time. We have a core group of people who've been following us for years. So sure. Thank God.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm getting excited about it. Now, here's the funny part, Mac. Ted never does. This is our 37th show. Ted has done zero research in the first 36 shows. So this is absolutely amazing to me that he actually came semi-prepared.
I'm just happy I found your house.
Wow.
All right. So I am getting super excited to, I told Mac before, we just for a minute or two we were talking, he writes a lot of science fiction and military fiction, which is literally everything that I have read.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's my absolute favorite thing. But I want to focus on your specialty, which is UFOs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me ask you this, just to give the people some background who don't know you. How long have you been researching UFOs, aliens, and that whole phenomenon?
Wow. I mean, I've been interested in that kind of stuff since I was a kid. And it was only by a fluke. I grew up in Dorchester, part of Boston. And the library there, the way that it was set up, all the science fiction books were in one bookcase. And right next to them were the flying saucer books. And I was a big science fiction fan since I could read. I was reading Robert Heinlein and Asimov and all those guys, Jack Williamson and stuff. But when I went through all the books there, science fiction books, I just looked on the next bookcase over, and there's all these UFO books. And it was kind of like science fiction to me in a way. So I read them too, and I was hooked back then.
Yeah, that is. I mean, honestly, that's kind of the same setup. I've always been going to libraries.
Well, Ray Bradbury, for example, was a great science fiction author.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So I've always been intrigued by that. And, in fact, Mr. Maloney, I actually, as soon as I Googled your name, I mean, you came up everywhere, and so I actually found your profile on Wikipedia. Would you mind if I read it? Because this is on Wikipedia.
Oh, sure. But you got to stop calling me Mr. Maloney. Please.
Okay, I'll call you Mac.
Yeah, sure.
All right, thank you. So, okay,
Ted, hold on, Ted. He's not the president of the United States. Okay, I mean he's close, and he's probably way more interesting and way more lucid. But
way more lucid for sure. So, okay,
depends on which one you're talking about. Actually, but go ahead. Let's go.
So Mack Maloney is a U.S. writer I'm just quoting exactly, a U.S. writer of speculative fiction, predominantly known for Starhawk, Wingman, Chopper Ops, and Pirate Hunters fiction series. Maloney received a B.S. in journalism from Suffolk University and an M.A. in film at Emerson College. He is the host of Mack Maloney's Military X-Files radio show on iHeartRadio.
Mac, wait, hold on. Did you know all of this?
Guilty.
I'm sure he's been made aware of it at some point.
Can I tell you something funny?
Sure.
Truthfully, probably I've been doing this a long time, so probably 10 years ago or so, someone put up a very short Wikipedia biography of me. It was probably 6 sentences, and I didn't know. I got a message saying that Wikipedia took it down because I wasn't famous enough. Now I'm thinking about that for a second.
Yeah.
Every freaking thing in the world goes up on Wikipedia, but they decide I wasn't famous enough. Okay.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, to make it to Wikipedia, I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean,
yeah, but
I know we're not on Wikipedia.
Well,
you know what?
You can write your own bio. And so anyway, someone put that up there a few months ago. I just saw it the other day, and I read it. It's kind of funny reading your own Wikipedia thing, but yeah, most of the stuff in there is true.
That's what now,
with a little hyperbole here and there.
Well,
because we need hyperbole.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited. You know what? Maybe someday that we'll, Teddy and I will be famous enough, and we will have a real 3 idiots Wikipedia.
So the only serious question I have to ask you, Mac, is it you're in Boston, red or white clam chowder?
You don't talk about red clam chowder in Boston.
Exactly. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Okay.
It's a good way to
you
get
answered
your
my
ass
question.
beat.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't worry. I'm pretty sure after this show I'm going to kick Ted's ass.
It's like
anyways,
ketchup on a hot dog. We don't talk about stuff like that.
No, don't ever put ketchup on a hot dog.
No,
That's disgusting.
No. Oh God. Okay. So let's start with your book Beyond Area 51, because I thought this was really cool. So when you wrote this, you kind of said that Roswell isn't a thing, but we do have secret UFO study bases around in America. Oh, I think we lost you on the sound here. Oh, no. All right, Mac, if you can hear me, we cannot. Okay, There you go. Oh, there you go.
Okay. You can just pick. Okay. Yeah, Beyond Area 51. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we Area 51 isn't a real place, and there are other places though. Is that kind of what the gist of this is?
Yeah, Area 51 is a place. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that basically what they do there is they test our top secret aircraft. Okay,
and that's Nevada, right? That's Nevada.
Nevada. It's about 75 miles west of Las Vegas. It exists, but there are also other bases out there in what's called the Nevada Weapons Testing Range, which is the size of Connecticut, that you never hear of, or you hear of them very rarely. One of them is called Tonopah Airfield, which is up near Reno. And that's, for instance, where they flew the stealth fighter for 10 years without anybody knowing about it. They only flew it at night and so on. It's a very, very top secret place. What's interesting about that book, I think, is that a friend of mine who worked for Army counterintelligence for a long time and who's on our show frequently under the name Agent X, but he's really in working with the 3-letter agencies and so on and so forth. And what I would do is I would send him I'd write a chapter. The book begins with he and I in a bar talking about the book. And then I would send him a chapter and he would review it and tell me if anything was really crazy or really wrong or whatever. So that entire story about Tonopah and all the bases in there has actually been blessed by someone who works, for the agencies, So, but he's the one who told me Area 51 is one of several. It's not the only one out there.
Okay, so obviously, here's what you've been doing this for so long, and without giving anything away, you have probably people in places in different countries and different levels that kind of feed you information when you come across it. Like you can kind of run by stuff by them.
Well, it's not as 007 as you make it sound, but no, there's people on our show, the Mack Maloney Military X-Files show, where Agent X, as I say, is someone who works for. His title is someone. He works for the agency that works for the agencies. He's basically a military contractor to the CIA and the FBI. Another guy on the show, Commander Cobra, he is a military contractor. He's done secret work in Iraq and other places. And we also have a good friend over in England named Ross Sharp, who is an expert on the RAF. He also worked for British intelligence for a while. So if something comes up, either on the show or in one of my books or whatever, those guys I can call up and say, all I want to know from them is I don't want to make a mistake. You know what I mean? I don't want to make a glaring error on how a spy does this or that. And yeah, it's good to be able to call on those guys.
So what all I've heard about Area 51, my limited knowledge is that it's a place that's very restricted. It's heavily restricted. So they have basically shoot to killers. So if you try to get onto Area 51, which is a military base, they can legally kill the military, legally kill you if you try to trespass on it. And what I heard was that their explanation was that like these flying, unidentified flying objects were actually quote unquote weather balloons back in the 1950s or whenever that happened. That was our explanation. Actually, just today or yesterday in Texas, there was an unexplained potential UFO sighting, and it was explained by the government that there were actually satellites, maybe not U.S. satellites, but definitely satellites, because there was a formation of lights that it was not consistent with any type of U.S. aircraft or military aircraft.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, they were weather balloons back in the 50s and the 40s. I mean, Roswell, you started, we brought up Roswell there for a second before we had that technical issue, and nothing happened at Roswell. Take it from me. Nothing happened at Roswell because in my mind, all you have to know is among the debris that was found by the rancher, it was rope.
Okay.
There's several, feet, several yards of rope and other very earthly objects. And I just don't think rope would be on a UFO.
Sure. But here's what I think is the most legitimate thing I've ever heard about UFOs that's more conclusive than alien kidnappings in some rural part of the country where they cannot be corroborated. So the U.S. Navy that was flying out obviously at like 30,000 plus feet did see some. I mean, and this was verified by the military.
Oh, yeah, we all saw the videos.
Yeah. I mean, just stuff. I mean, things that move light years faster than anything that any human can concoct or can construct. Faster than any type of F-14 jet. Or light years ahead of modern technology. So that's actually believable, and that was verified by the U.S. military.
Right. Yeah, that's the Tic Tac videos. But what I'm saying is that Roswell, the whole myth that has grown up around Roswell, it started actually in the 1980s. Like I said earlier, I read every UFO book, flying special book I could get my hands on by the time I was 12 years old. And I don't remember reading anything about Roswell, but at the end of the 80s, Stan Friedman, who was a UFO researcher, now passed on, and a few other people, sold the story to the National Enquirer, basically, made up a lot of stuff about the U.S. government threatening people and killing witnesses and taking bodies here and there and everywhere, and started this whole kind of circus down there. And, I just say to people, listen, UFOs exist. And the military knows they exist, but they don't know what they are. Take it from me. But, there's plenty of evidence that UFOs, as I say, exist. But I doubt very much that you're going to find stuff like balsa wood and rope on a UFO.
No, that makes sense. Actually, you know what? That kind of leads me to this. When you're doing your research, okay, how do you differentiate from the real stuff and the made-up bullshit stuff? Because you have to come across so much information. Like, how are you finding what you think is actual info and what is just ridiculous? Somebody wants some attention.
90% of it is bullshit. We say this all the time. And the funny thing is that 90% of UFO sightings can be explained. 10 cannot. 10% every month. There's about 1,000 UFO sightings every month around the world reported. 90% of them can be explained. This is how we start our show. The 10% that cannot, and it's those 10% that I try my best to concentrate on. Okay, it's very easy to separate the BS from reality. You just got to look at things see what the evidence is. I mean, sometimes you get upon a story that it's just like too good not to put in a book, like the kind of books I write.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, you just got to. It's more, to me. It's more interesting. Those 10% of stories that have not been explained. They're more interesting than reading some book or hearing some guy's lecture about 50,000 aliens and Dulce Mountain and all that stuff. That stuff's not happening. Look at the 10% of UFO cases that have not been explained. That's where the secret to the puzzle lies.
Sure. So I mean, let's think about this logically. So Elon Musk is trying to fly an unmanned spacecraft to Mars, which I think he said which is going to take like 7 to 8 years, and probably whoever if you flew a human there, they probably would not survive the journey. So let's just think, if there's an alien out there, how many light years have they traveled to come here? So I mean, you have to just assume their technology is so much way more advanced than ours. I mean, so we can't even make it to Mars,
right?
Which is So I mean, these people are coming. These beings are coming from some other cosmos. So I mean, that's impressive in itself. The fact that they have an aircraft that could travel wherever they're coming from. I mean, just that alone shows that they have to be a superior to anything on Earth.
Well, see, and that also that's right, and it also, in my mind, I think that by saying, they're light years away, that's our measurement. That's an earthly measurement relative to Earth. Obviously, we're not going to get to the nearest star. It would take us 20,000 years to get to the nearest star if you were, in a ballistic missile, which is all we do these days. They, whoever these entities are, they have found a way to travel, much quicker and, infinitely quicker than, comparing a jet plane to a covered wagon or something like that. They have tapped into something that we don't know about yet. And we just assume that they might be aliens. They could very easily be from another dimension. They could be time travelers from our own future coming back and seeing history being made. I mean, they're not always, the whole little green men from Mars theory is just one of, zillions of theories that it could be. And we probably can't even understand what they are, but again, the U.S. military has lots of evidence that they exist, but I'm convinced they have no idea what they are. Once again, why would we go through all this trouble to launch like the shuttle into outer space and launch this big rocket to the moon and stuff if we had anti-grav, the magic of anti-grav, if we retro engineered some crash UFO or something? That stuff, we'd be living in a different world if that was true.
So there's no way we have any of that stuff, right?
I don't think so. We'd be living in a different world. We'd be flying around like the Jetsons.
Oh, you know what? I kind of like that. George Jetson had a hot wife. She honestly, he had a very hot wife. All right, so
I like the theme song of that show.
Mac is part of this now that we're able to share so much information, because I feel like 70 years ago, 60, 70 years ago, if somebody in Sweden or Japan or even in Idaho, had some sort of information, there was just no way other than, a letter or word of mouth to really even share this stuff. Is the internet and cell phones, is it making it easier for somebody who sees something tonight to get it to you tomorrow, or even to post it tonight, making it easier for you to kind of put together, like what's happening and how things are kind of changing?
Sure, absolutely. But it also raises the, raises the bar. Or, what it also does is brings a lot of bullshit on us too. You know how the internet is. How much do you really want to believe?
No.
But as far as, you're right, immediate, there's like websites where, literally up to the minute UFO sightings across the country. And when you look at one of those things and you see how much of this is happening, and you think, wow, if 90% of these can be explained, there's still dozens every day, every night, people seeing stuff that cannot be explained. It makes it on the internet. It's up to us, researchers and people who have podcasts like you guys, to really, in my opinion, just to really kind of look and see, what could be true here, and what is someone just making up, or, they just want to elaborate on it for their own personal gain or whatever.
So the funny thing, you remember Orson Welles' War of the Worlds back in like the 40s or 50s? Yeah. So like he did this it was like a radio show, because there was no TV back then, where he basically said the aliens were coming to Earth, and actually people believed him, and they were actually freaking out because they actually thought that was a real alien invasion. So we all remember that, right?
1938. Yeah.
Was it 38? Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yep. It shows you the power of the media and now social media.
Yeah. So I guess that segues into if that was, I mean, if for example, there's so many conflicts in the world right now, people hate each other. There's a lot of wars. I guarantee you, if a foreign life force came here from another planet, everything would stop. It would be like 9/11. It would be like Special News Bulletin. All the shows would be canceled, and that would be the only focus. So if that was like actually a bona fide thing, it would be 24/7 news coverage, like a movie, where it'd be like, that would be the most spectacular thing of all time.
Really, it'd be the biggest thing.
Yeah, the biggest thing
in him,
and it'd be 20. Yeah, because no one could even wrap their mind around the concept of that there can be life somewhere else. And between all of us, I agree. That there has to be somewhere in the cosmos, sustainable life. So like, for example, Earth is the only planet as we know of, quote unquote, that sustains life. And for what I know is that no scientist on this Earth has ever been able to create life in a laboratory from nothing. So if something came from somewhere else, that would be the biggest news story of all time.
Yeah.
Of all time. Yeah.
Probably came from asteroids and, things like that. That they find amino acids in asteroids and meteors. That's really all it takes, you need amino acids to create life, but they have found them in asteroids, and a lot of asteroids hit the Earth way back when.
Sure.
Oh yeah, they're actually talking about different. I'm going to say it wrong. Somebody found, I think, antibodies or I can't remember what they found on the
somewhere.
Well, Mars, that Mars rover. They're saying they found like bodies of water, and there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that the Mars rover that disappeared like a few years ago. It got reconnected with NASA, so to speak.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but
they found organic life. They think they found evidence. They
think they did, but they don't know for sure. They don't know. Yeah. But I mean, think about it. We can't even get to our own sun or Venus or any of Jupiter. We just know they're there. But I mean, we're not even capable of traveling past the moon. So I mean, we don't know anything.
Right.
We don't know anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Mac, I can tell you this. Ted knows a lot less than everybody else. So yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this. So the government's always been involved in kind of looking for UFOs, and I know they started out with this thing. What was it? Project Blue Book, right?
Right. Yep.
And that lasted 20 years. Did anything ever come of that?
No. Yes, they started it in the 50s, early 50s, right after the Korean War, where a lot of our pilots were seeing UFOs. And before that point, the Air Force's official line was that anyone who sees a UFO is like hysterical or they're hallucinating or whatever. But so many of our pilots saw them, they couldn't say, well, our pilots are hallucinating or religious nuts or whatever. So they said, all right, we'll start this Project Blue Book. And so what they made you want to believe, or what they wanted you to believe, was, this was the equivalent of NASA, with lots of people walking around in white coats and stuff. And in reality, it was a major named John Ropolt, a lieutenant orderly and 2 secretaries. That was it. And what they used to do is they would get, let's say they would get 100 letters, a month on UFOs. What they would do is they would go through them and they would find the ones that they could solve. This was Venus, because we can prove Venus was out at 6:10 this particular night. This was that. And it was the ones they could solve that they would write back to the person, report back to the person, and report to the newspaper. We've solved this, but they never mentioned the ones they couldn't solve. And that was obviously the plan all along. After that was over in 1967, they closed up and they said, that's it. The U.S. government is no longer looking into UFOs. We know that they lied about that because they admitted that in 1993. And then said, okay, now we're really not looking at it. And then we found out that in 2012, they had been looking at it all along. And now in 2019, they started this committee after these TikTok videos, where they're saying openly, which is kind of amazing, we're looking into these things. We're looking into them as, security threats, possible security threats, air traffic control threats, things of that nature. But that's almost 2 years ago, and they've actually done nothing. So it's kind of like more of the same,
So that new thing you're talking about is the All Domain Anomaly Research Office. Is that
right?
Yeah,
that's it.
Okay,
and they've already changed the name twice. So yeah. So it's another government bullshit thing. That's all. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people had hope, and I think, this is how you kind of hold the crowd away from the gates for a while. But
right.
But on the other hand, I find it kind of amazing that that they would start it in the first place. Because they took money from Congress, and one of the things you got to do is you got to go up every 3 months or whatever, and at least tell them how you're spending the money. So if they send someone up there to testify to Congress, and it turns out the military actually knows what UFOs are, that person's going to go up there and lie. He's going to lie to Congress, really? Perjury? Go to federal prison? So I don't think so.
So they set this up. When they set this up, there's clandestine operations that are obviously doing the work, so they don't have to go up in front of Congress and lie. That's obvious, right?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think maybe what is really going on is that they compartmentalize these things. Okay, like for instance, X works for this company that basically does things that the CIA, the FBI, or all these other 3-letter agencies don't want to do, so they contract it out, or they don't want, like a paper trail going to the Pentagon. That stuff definitely does happen. But other than, I can't imagine, any kind of, a classified operation doing anything other than looking just at all the evidence of UFOs and trying to figure out what the hell these things are. Do they have a patent? Do they show up on certain days and not other days? They show up a lot around air bases, that's for sure, and have been for years.
So here's my question. So it's not so much the UFO, which is unidentified flying object. It's what's inside the UFO that's more scary, because the UFO is just a vehicle. I mean, a vehicle that's way more advanced than anything that we ever could conjure to get somewhere. But what comes out of that UFO is actually more important than the UFO itself, because, I mean, obviously they have it, whatever is in that UFO obviously has advanced technology way beyond our capabilities, but whatever comes out of that UFO is actually more scary because, they have to be way more advanced than anything we are capable of.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about, maybe this doesn't answer the question directly, but we talk a lot about on the show is that maybe there's what we call the unified field theory of the paranormal. Maybe UFOs and ghosts and the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and all these things are part of the same thing. Okay. And what could that thing be? And we've had people on the show just recently where they say that, one of the theories is that, this whole idea that there are multiverses, there's an infinite number of universes out there. And maybe there are cases where they just kind of rub up against each other, and just for, seconds or minutes, not very long, where, kind of their universe bleeds into ours and ours might bleed into theirs. People just see strange things and all of a sudden they're gone. There's one in one of my books, we talk about this event called the Ghost Flyers of 1931, where there were just these huge airplanes were seen flying over the desolate parts of Scandinavia, 8-engine airplanes with pontoons, though there was no water for hundreds of miles around. People saw these things all the time. They look like something built here on Earth, but they were just a little bit different. In 1946, the Ghost rockets over Sweden, same thing. People see these rockets flying around. They don't know what they are. A Swedish pilot got up, flew beside one, and basically his description was of a cruise missile that didn't come along till like 1985 or so. So, there's a lot of these things, not just UFOs, not just this flying saucers, little green men, but the idea that, maybe this is just all part of the same thing. Maybe, and maybe it's just they're not from another planet. They're just from another reality, another universe, another place.
So Mac, have you ever seen the movie Sprock?
No.
With Kevin Spacey. So Kevin Spacey in that movie, he's sort of like a mentally ill man.
Oh, I did see that.
Who gets committed? Sprock. And he actually before he got canceled, of course, in real life. But
really
the point,
good movie.
Yeah, but the point, great movie. But the point is, he actually can solve a mathematical formula about the universe that the brightest minds in mathematics cannot solve about the universe. So it's led to believe that he actually knows so basically he knows the unknowable is what he knows.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So about aliens, about the universe. So that's actually a great movie to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, is he nuts or not? That's the whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That's
Well, obviously,
cool.
but if you know, it's like The Exorcist. It's like it's someone who's like possessed. Like, okay, they're crazy. You could say they're psychotic, but if they know the unknowable, you can't discount that.
They must have something going.
If they can,
Right, I agree.
if they can speak Latin, if they can speak backwards perfectly, I mean, you can say they're mentally ill or psychosis, but I mean, they know something that nobody else knows.
Well, yeah. Mac, if you think about it, I mean, people have different gifts, right? I mean, there could be people that can see or understand or feel things that other people can't, and when they experience something that happens, if it's another multiverse or if it's something from another planet or from outer space, that they would have the ability to do that, and then we would obviously immediately just call them crazy, right?
Yes, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they might be the geniuses of the future.
I mean, let's say, for example, so I saw a Subway, the Subway sandwiches. I saw a commercial with a guy. He was wearing a suit, and apparently, no, I'm serious. So apparently, this guy, his IQ was 200, which is like 1% of like half of 1%. So, like for example,
hold on, Teddy. Before you say it, you're telling me someone with a 200 IQ would eat Subway?
Yes,
because that is gross.
Yeah, he was in a Subway commercial talking to a little kid. So, for example, Einstein's IQ was like 130 or 145. This guy's IQ was 200. So I think there's like half of 1% of the people in the world whose IQ is that high.
Right.
And this guy's in a Subway commercial. And so the point is, even he doesn't know. He doesn't know. So if the smartest guy in the world doesn't know, then nobody knows. So I'm saying we're talking about something. We're talking about something we're talking about something you know. You don't know the unknowable. That's what we don't know.
Right.
We don't know that.
Yeah. Right. Yes, I agree with you 100%.
That's interesting. So let me ask you this. So there's a common belief that if the masses knew that there were aliens out there, everyone would just lose their minds. But is you think that's true? I mean, do you think that the world would no,
because lots of people want this to happen. I mean, lots of people want this to happen. Lots of people look at it as if the aliens are either going to save us, whether they're angels, or whether they're these benign, beings that are going to come down and look after us, and that's what they've been doing all along.
So have aliens ever attacked? I mean, do you know anything where aliens have ever done anything bad to humans? Bad. People say that they've come to they've been abducted or whatever that is. But have you ever heard any stories where maybe something as bad has happened to a person?
Very rarely. If I could plug one of my books called UFOs in Wartime, basically we just look at all the reports of UFOs that are seen in wartime, mostly in the 20th century. But the idea being is, why do people see UFOs more in wartime than in peacetime? And, one of the things could be that, there's a lot of airplanes flying around, a lot more people looking up in the sky, whatever. But, in that whole thing, which basically talks about UFO sightings from the beginning of from the 1900s right up to the first Iraq War, the Gulf War, maybe 3 instances where the UFOs, acted in a aggressive manner. Let's say there's a story of kind of a dogfight with an F-16 during the first Gulf War. There's a story about how in World War II, this orb came over the front lines right after D-Day and kind of shot at both sides, but not killing anybody. And then in Korea, there's a story about how UFOs showed up during a battle between the Chinese and Americans and shot at both sides, and both sides shot at it, and just crazy. But those are the 3 that I can think of. You compare those to the thousands of other reports where UFOs are just benign, and once again, it looks like they're just kind of looking in on us, kind of observing us, and that comes from that idea that maybe they're just time travelers from our future coming back to see history being made. Who knows?
So wait a minute. So that's an interesting idea. So you're saying that it's possible that the people that are there are just kind of coming back and seeing what happened?
Could be. I mean, because especially during these stories that we put together. I mean, we have like 350 stories about UFOs being seen during wartime. But as I said before, almost never do they have any kind of aggressive behavior. They're always just kind of there observing us, flying alongside the bombers and those kind of things. And so it's kind of like, well, they're just watching. They're just seeing history as it's being made. Now, that sounds cool, but there's a problem, and that is that well, if time tourism is something in our distant future, why aren't there, 5 billion people at the crucifixion? Why aren't there, a billion people watching a Shakespeare play? So that's the paradox. But just the way that UFOs act, they're always just it's almost like they're looking for something.
Right. Well, I can tell you why they're not, because Jean-Claude Van Damme is doing his time cop thing, and he's not letting people come back. I know that for a fact.
So here's the thing. So why would an advanced society like UFOs, I'm assuming that are way more advanced than humans, why would they care what we're doing? Because I mean, if they're like 10 levels above us,
right? What's the point?
What would keep them amused?
Come on, comedy. Are you kidding me? Just to see, to think about it, in the future, they for the most part, they have to get along, right? People they're probably they could so easily destroy each other that they would have to figure out a way to get along, right?
Well, maybe we're not worth their time.
No, but what I'm saying is, does that kind of make sense, Mac? That
yes, to survive, for your species to survive and not kill itself, you have to learn how to get along, right?
Right,
exactly.
And so they can kind of look in. This is kind of like a rerun, and just to see what a bunch of idiots can't, they can't live together because one guy believes in this God and one guy believes in that God, and one guy wants to do this and one guy wants to do that, and this is probably just a giant joke for them.
Well,
it is an interesting sociological experiment to look at how effed up we are. Just an example, before we got on the air, I was watching the news, and the UN is meeting this week, where all the leaders from around the world come and they meet at the UN. I think every 4 years. Usually there's a big traffic jam down in New York City, but usually they have a theme, end world hunger, or and save the environment or whatever. The theme this time is colossal global dysfunction. Well, think about that for a second. That's what the UN is talking about this week. Colossal global dysfunction.
Not erectile dysfunction. Okay, just checking.
So if these aliens are here to take care of us, they're doing a crappy job.
That is the funniest thing
trust me,
ever.
aliens, if they came, they wouldn't be here to take care of us. They'd be here to punish and enslave. That's what I would do.
So okay, so
I'm not doing much of anything.
So this is always interesting to me, because I know people said that they got abducted and they always had their asses probed. Are there any secrets in our asses that we don't know about? Do you think there's anything that the aliens could learn anymore?
Colon cancer.
That's yeah. You're gonna have to ask someone else that.
So I just real quick, I wanted to read a quote that I found online. It says, "So this is for your book, sir. Beyond Area 51."
Yes.
And it's a good quote. It says, "As he did with UFO in wartime, what they didn't want you to know, Mack Maloney put together an interesting collection of accounts between." The covers of this volume. The book covers many familiar places, ranging from the alleged Dulce base HARP, and goes on to hunt for the British equivalent of the Area 51. The territory is quite familiar. As a result, Maloney does a good job presenting these places, the oddities around them, and even does so with an important skeptical eye at times.
Okay, sounds like
one of your fans, sir. One of your fans, sir.
Okay, okay. So let me ask you this: if aliens came down and disproved it, how does that affect religion? I
think it throws it all out the window. Because all of our religions are based on earthly things. They're relative to this planet. So you could make the general statement, well, God made everybody in the universe, and we're just,
except dinosaurs.
That's what the religious people will say. But you're going to see that I think a lot of people, it might not happen immediately. There won't be panic in the streets. But you see, religion, when you really look at it, religion is just a way for, governments or entities to control us. I never used to think that, but I'm becoming, now I kind of see. Because when you really think about it, politics and religion, those are the two things that cause all these wars. More people have died from politics and religion than anything else in history. When you think of the slaughter that would happen back in, just World War II, other than disease and stuff like that. Okay. So, I know that Winston Churchill, one of the stories in our book, he was given a photograph that was taken by a RAF recon plane that just clearly shows a flying saucer chasing this plane. And he said, look, we're going to impound this photograph for 50 years. I don't want anyone seeing it for 50 years because he believed that that would be the end of religion. And at the end of the, I mean, look at England. I mean, basically England is based on the Church of England. You don't want to lose that support, that foundation. So I don't think there'd be panic in the streets, but I think gradually, especially young people coming up saying, what's religion? It has nothing to do with me now. If there's life elsewhere out there.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. What would happen if tomorrow we woke up? So, we're doing this thing. We wake up tomorrow, and there's no doubt we have proof that there are aliens. Okay, and now besides you being a billionaire and one of the most famous people on the planet, how do you think the world changes if tomorrow we turn on every single news story and there it is, we have actual proof that there are aliens?
I think everything changes. I mean, first of all, you have to figure out is this Columbus just coming over the horizon and the Indians saying, what the hell is that? Because look what happened to them. The chances are very good that if there is some kind of superior technological race coming here, doing all the things that we've kind of see them doing, I mean, the chances are that, they want to take us over. I mean, why would they want to be friends with us? But now that's just, once again, that's through our eyes on earth here. How do we know that where these people come from, maybe something like hating each other is just completely foreign to them? Maybe everyone gets along. Maybe that's why they've endured all these years. Maybe we're the weird ones. Maybe we're the ones trying to kill each other, and that's just completely crazy to them. We don't know.
Well, the funny thing, if I was a superior being, I mean, if I came to Earth, they wouldn't be worth my time. I mean, I don't want to enslave them and punish them because
but they hear a lot. Though.
I don't even want them. I don't need
here.
I don't need them.
Okay.
Ted has a set amount of friends, Mac, and any more friends, alien or not, would be really weird to him. Okay.
Overload. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So let me ask you this: is there any proof or any ideas? Have aliens been on this planet, walking around? I mean, could aliens be human-like? Could they be on the planet interacting with us right now?
Well, anything's possible, but once again, why would they be doing this? If they're so technologically astute that they can do all these like crazy things, almost like magical things, then what's the point of them walking around? And why has none of them, not one of them, have been found? How is not one like get hit by a car, be in a plane crash, and all of a sudden they're doing an autopsy, and he's a quote unquote reptilian? That just, to me, that's just 90% of the BS. To go looking for reptilians and all this kind of stuff, it's just, you're being led off the path. The true path is to go and look at the UFO incidents that have no explanation and find one.
Okay, so let me ask you this: in your UFOs in wartime, you say that obviously they've seen more UFOs because there were so many planes up there.
It might seem that way, yeah.
So we have so many drones flying around right now.
Now these days, yes.
Yeah. Does that help us
and satellites,
and the satellites? Does that help us to get more information?
No, because I think people see drones and mistake them for UFOs. So, and that just increases the number of reports that that are false. But drones sure look like UFOs. We saw one. My wife and I saw one once. We live near the ocean, and we saw one over the ocean. We go, what the hell is that thing? And it flew over us a few minutes later, and it was a drone. Taking pictures on the sunset or whatever. So I think it just muddies up the issue. I think it complicates the issue a lot, and it just makes the field more cluttered to actually see real, genuine UFOs.
Okay, is there a stigma? Let me ask you this: is there a stigma that people are afraid to say yes, I believe, or yes, I've seen something? So
yes,
that a lot of things that could be reported just aren't reported.
Yes, and that's intentional, and that's all started with the CIA back in the early 50s. What happened was in the early 50s, there was, so for the month of August, I think it was 1951 or two, I'm not sure, but lots of UFOs showed up over Washington, D.C. for 3 consecutive weekends. I mean, lots of them, flying in formation. Lots of people saw them. They hung around these airports, National Airport, which is now Ronald Reagan Airport, and they would dispatch jet fighters to go look at them, and they would disappear. The jet fighters would leave. The UFOs would come back. so many people saw these things that what happened was, and they were reported widely, that people jammed up the phone lines of the White House and the Pentagon, like reporting these things. And so once the flap was over, the CIA said, listen, we can't have this because the Russians, all they would have to do is create this another UFO panic, and they would jam up the Pentagon and the White House phone lines, and that would be bad if a war was coming, right? So what they did was that they planted news stories in newspapers in the 50s, making it seem like, people, they would always quote people. They would tell the person's story, but they'd always quote people saying, well, he's crazy, or we always call him, the funny one or whatever, making it almost like their policy to make fun of people who report UFOs. Now, and that still stays today. There's a stigma involved. But on the other hand, what they also used to do is when they were testing top secret aircraft, they would, let's say, fly one. This is just an example. They would fly one over LA at noontime on a Friday at 20,000 feet. And then they would check to see the next day in the newspaper how many people reported seeing flying saucers. And then they might do it, a month later and at 30,000 feet. And they would check how many people could see them. And then to 40,000 feet. And they'd find out, well, 40,000 people can't see them because there are no UFO reports. That's where we're going to fly. So they used the UFO sighting population for their own means too. At the same time, making it seem like there's something wrong with you if you report a UFO. The stigma still stands. That's what the amazing thing about it is.
So here's my question. So, Mac, what would you have to see with your own eyes, minimally, to believe and confirm everything you know right now? Just minimally. I mean, I'm not saying like someone coming down, but just
deep, dude.
Minimally.
Right.
What would you have to see? Say, yeah, this is a real thing.
I mean, I think I would. I've never seen
just minimal. It's just the most minimal thing.
I've never seen one. I've talked to a lot of people who have seen UFOs, and basically what they say is when you see it, you know it. You just say this cannot be an airplane with its lights blinking. This is something from somewhere else. Remember some person said once, it almost seemed like it was a cartoon imposed on the sky because it looks so
like
vivid.
surreal. So with your own eyes, what would you need to see?
One of those.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not just a blinking light in the sky.
Sure, because that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything exactly.
Okay, so kind of go along with that. What do you think to make everybody believe? What do you think's got to happen to prove that there are UFOs, that there are, that whether they're aliens, whether they're time travelers, what do you think has to happen for the masses to believe that then?
Well, land on the White House lawn. I mean, well, seriously. I mean, seriously, that's what you need. It's like the day the Earth stood still, the original one, Michael Rennie. He basically is a traveler from outer space, and they land at National Stadium near Washington, near the White House, and that's where they decide, okay, if we're going to be found out, this is where we're going to go. The fact that they don't do something like that, but they show up there's a place called Elk River, Minnesota, which has many times UFO sightings than places like San Diego or Seattle. Why is that? Why is that? But the fact that they're around all the time, they're not trying to hide from us, but they have yet to land on the White House lawn. That's like one of the biggest mysteries. But that's what it would take for me: real good evidence, irrefutable evidence that here they are.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's say there's aliens out there, whatever they are, and they wanted to make contact with someone on the Earth. I mean, who do you think that they would go to? Like, let's say you're flying around and you don't want the whole world to know immediately. Who do you think that they would just go to and say, hey, listen, we're here and we need some help figuring out how to tell everybody we're here? Any ideas on that?
Well, I don't think they'd have any problem figuring out how to do it. What I do think is, I think they would go to the most powerful person on earth, and that's the president of the United States.
Oh my God! Would he even notice that? No, just kidding. I'm not making that.
He'd
joke.
notice. Hey, listen, okay, we don't talk politics on the show.
Right.
But let me tell you something. Now that you brought it up, right? He's a lot better than the fucking asshole who was in there before.
Oh, okay? Listen, I 100%
is a fucking traitor, and he should be in prison. I'm sorry.
No.
Anyone who believes differently and that you want to believe this stuff, that Uncle Joe is like one of these guys who are feeble-minded and stuff. He's done more for this country than that asshole did in 4 years, and he has to pick up the crap that guy left behind.
Oh no, I 100%, I 100% agree.
I just think if some entity from another universe came to the world, I think that would get everybody's attention. Whether it's Putin from Russia, Kim Jong-un from North Korea. I mean, Ezrajan from Turkey.
Could you imagine if we had to go through Kim Jong-un? That would be hilarious.
Actually, the world would just stop. Everything would just stop, and it would be 24/7, constant about that. Because, I mean, how could it not be? How could it not be?
That would be,
I don't think it depends on one specific world leader. I think just because something came here that was so much more above all of us, our capabilities, our knowledge, it doesn't matter. It would get our undivided attention immediately.
Right. So they could land on your front lawn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, just as long as they land and kind of reveal themselves. Okay. So maybe it does make any difference, but if you want the attention, if you want to really say we are here, land on the White House lawn at noon on a Friday and have irrefutable, evidence that, something from another place is here.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It seems like a long leap. It doesn't seem like something like that would be impossible to happen, but hey, you never know.
No, actually, what's funny is no, it doesn't seem that unbelievable, right? Because we started from the beginning. There's no way we're the only people, the only things that are out here.
It can't be possible. It can't be possible. There has to be some type of life out there. I'm not saying it's similar to our life, but I mean there's some type of nitrogen, oxygen. Maybe it's not called that wherever they are, but it's got to be something that can sustain something that's not similar to us. It's got to be.
Yeah, we can't judge or even speculate on what these entities are because we're doing it from our point of view, which is the only point of view, the human being's point of view. Sure. They might have a completely different kind of set of morals or whatever. Maybe they have no morals at all, or maybe they're just so brilliant, as you say, they look in on us because it's a comedy show. Who knows? Sure. See, we don't know. We can speculate forever, but we're not going to know until, that UFO lands and says, here we are, and this is what we're doing, and this is why we've been doing what we've been doing for all, for centuries.
That I love the concept of that. Okay, so there's people out there who have made it their life's work to disprove or debunk everything that comes up, right? Why are they doing that? What's the purpose?
Some do it for money. I mean, a lot of these people do it for money because if you can sell, 5,000 hardcovers books about UFO, if you say that it's all false, you could probably sell maybe 3,000 books debunking it. People go on the lecture circuit to kind of, put these things down. I mean, there's been a number of people who, that they found out. There was a guy who worked for Aviation Week. Years ago, he's now dead. I forget his name, but basically, he was the guy that the networks should go to if there was some kind of a UFO story. They would go to him for the the other side of the story, and he'd always debunk them. But he was the guy that they would call to say, okay, we need the other side of the story. So he's going to come on and debunk it. He's not going to have a objective opinion about it. And he worked for Aviation Week, which was really connected to the Air Force, especially, but to the Pentagon. So God knows who he knew. So there are people out there, Randy the musician, there's another guy, where they're just going to make a name for themselves, make the headline by debunking something that, in some cases is just, truly unexplainable.
Yeah, it's crazy. I kind of looked through some stuff of people, people who write about it. And then I looked at the people who just kind of just everything they could so easily unexplain or de-explain everything. And it just kind of made me laugh. Now, I thought this was interesting. According to some kind of report, 2.5% of the U.S. population say they have a personal experience or have had some experience with aliens. Does that sound does that sound legit to you?
2.5%?
2.5% of the U.S. population say that they have had either they've seen something or been involved in some kind of thing. Does that number seem accurate?
Well, let's see. I'm the result of the Boston educational system, so it's going to take me a while to do the math.
Well, Teddy and I went to Chicago public school, so.
Well, okay. Sorry. My sympathies. Okay, all right.
Our deepest condolences.
That'd be like 300,000 people. Well, that's a lot of people, I mean, but let's be frank about it. Okay, a lot of them are nuts. Okay, a lot of them have kind of mental issues, or or they just want to make a name for themselves, or they just want attention or whatever. The thing that sticks in my mind as far as the objections go, because when you look at it, one side say, well, these people are so technologically advanced, why are they sticking, probes up our rear ends, right? Why would they have to do that? Why would they have to mutilate cows, so you really kind of have to look at it, that way. But the one thing that does stick in my mind is that, years ago, there were two guys, Bud Hopkins and John Mack. And John Mack was a professor at Harvard. Bud Hopkins was he was a researcher. I think he was in Florida. And what they did was, by agreement, they hypnotized a number of people who said that they were abducted. Now, they tried their best to make sure, and then they did make sure, that these people never came in contact with one another, so that whatever either one said, was pure from the spring, if you know what I mean. Okay. Right. So they did this, and, you can find their findings everywhere. And there were some people who were making it up, some people who saw a movie and thought it happened to them, all kinds of explanations. But there were a number of ones that neither one of those guys could figure out exactly what happened. And one thing that they found out in their research, that they found out independently of what their patients said to them, was that they said that if they were abducted by gray aliens, that they had tattoos. Now, that's just a very weird thing. Why would two people, if you said they had big eyes and gray eyes and bubble heads and stuff, of course, everyone knows that. But why would people say that these things had tattoos? So that tells me, hey, maybe this, who knows, there's something to this.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I know in Rhode Island, I think it's Rhode Island, every year they have a meeting of people who say they have been abducted by aliens. Are you familiar with this?
No, but if it happens in Rhode Island, I believe it.
Oh man, that is some East Coast bias right there. So you've never been to this, but I guess no. Okay. So yeah, so every year they get together and these people like share stories and do all that kind of stuff. Is it possible that so many people have been abducted and then brought back?
Well, yeah. See, a lot of people go missing, every year, and who knows what happens to a lot of them, but it's like almost like the unknowable. The unknowable. Are these people? Do things actually happen to them? Some of them come back and they have physical evidence that something happened to them, or they get sick afterwards or whatever. And you hear all the stories about being probed and all that kind of stuff. But is there some other explanation for it? People say, well, maybe the government is doing it and they can change themselves into looking like gray aliens, but they can't get rid of their tattoos. So you just never know. You just never know. But it's like ghosts. It's like every ghost story can't be wrong, can't be false, can't be a hoax, can't be people making up. There must be at least one legitimate ghost story, and if there is, that means seeing someone from the afterlife, then they all must be true.
So Mack,
we know it exists.
Yeah. So Mack, you brought up a good point. So I think a good tell is like, how can you know the unknowable? For example, exorcisms, which is kind of it's the same as aliens. It's like we don't really know if there's demons, if there's a god, but so these people, for example, professionals say, oh, these people who are possessed, quote unquote, are actually seriously mentally ill. But how can you explain somebody who can speak Latin if they don't know Latin, or can speak the English, can speak backwards in English? How can you explain that? Or I'm not even saying like levitation or something like The Exorcist, the movie, but the point is, it's the same concept. If you can know the unknowable, that we can't explain that. We can't explain that. Yeah. So like, if you can do something that is not within human capabilities or something within that person's capabilities, that brings into question, and that's actually criteria that the church uses to determine if someone's actually demonically possessed. Right. And you could extrapolate that. You could extrapolate that to alien abduction or something similar to that.
We've had people. We've had a bishop on our show who has been witnessed exorcisms, and other 2 or 3 other people who are on. And something's going on, whether these people are have mental issues or not, but that doesn't, once again, it doesn't explain, well, why do they, as you say, know the unknowable? Why are they, we've never talked to anyone who saw anyone levitate, but they've seen them, like, their demeanor change, their body change.
Or the language they start speaking, the language that they couldn't possibly know. Like, for example, there was a case a few years ago of somebody, and this is a real case, by the way, of somebody who had they had their part of their head chopped off by a helicopter blade. This is real, and then and like within a few weeks, they were able to speak like Portuguese. They were able to like write opera music, write art that they didn't know. So the brain's a very powerful organ. So we don't know what triggers these things,
right?
And so, but I'm saying I think that's the big tell. Like if you know the unknowable, that's a big thing.
Let me give you a real quick story, okay, on knowing the unknowable. So in once again in Beyond Area 51, we do a chapter on this place called the M Triangle, which is in Russia. It's near the Ural Mountains in Russia. Ural Mountains are like Russia's Rocky Mountains, right? So it's out there. And it's pretty big. It's like maybe about 100 square miles. It's woods, it's streams, it's mountains, and so on. And for years, when Russia was the Soviet Union, the KGB and the military wouldn't let anybody into the M Triangle. And then when things kind of thawed there, in the early 90s with Gorbachev and everything, they did start letting journalists and scientists into this place. So what happened was they found out that if you go in there, you do see odd things happen to you. They see a lot of UFOs, but they see orbs and stuff like that. There's a place there where you're in the middle of the forest and you can hear traffic. It doesn't get cell phone service except for this one place where you can call anywhere in the world and so on. Okay, so it all sounds fancy, right? Fanciful. So in early 90s, People magazine sent a reporter there. And it was the first Western reporter that the Russians let go into this place. They went in for 2 weeks. And one of the people that were, with them, they would go in, with like 25 people, was this journalist from Moscow. Now, he was a guy he was in the Russian army, and he was drummed out of the Russian army, for who knows what. But I'll tell you, the Russian army takes anybody today or even back then.
Especially now, obviously.
Yeah, right. To get thrown out, you really have to be a dummy or something. Whatever. So anyway, he gets a job as a journalist now, and he is sent by his magazine in Moscow to the M Triangle. He happens to be in there with the person from People magazine. So the people from People magazine, they kind of gravitate to him, and they talk to him a lot. He's part of their story. Now, this guy goes back. Now, he was like 24 years old. He got out of school, went into the Soviet military, and got thrown out. That's the extent of his education. He goes back. He writes a story back in Moscow. And within 2 or 3 weeks, suddenly he knows things that he shouldn't know about astrophysics. He knows stuff about rocketry. He knows stuff about the stars and everything. Within 6 months, this guy is a cosmonaut. Okay, no training. He just went into the M Triangle. Okay, people go in there and they say they get cured of mortal diseases. They said that they talk to people from other places. It's a very, very strange place. Okay, so once again, let's go back to this idea that is it possible that there are places where where all the forces, the unified field theory of the paranormal, come together? And this is one of them. Maybe that Skinwalker Ranch is another one, and you always hear about that. And maybe there are places, Bermuda Triangle. Maybe there are places where, this stuff is more concentrated than others. And that guy knew the unknowable.
Well, I mean that's objective proof, though. That's what people are looking for. People want objective proof. Mm-hmm. They don't want hyperbole. They want objective proof.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and you see, and you know what's funny. If we're not talking to you right now, we don't know anything about that. That's the craziest thing, right?
Right.
Like,
yes, I agree with you. Yep.
Yeah, and I when I talked to you a couple weeks ago, I started listening to your podcast, and I just all the different things, and I so many different topics, and I was just like, man, this is so crazy, and that's why it was so important. That's why I loved when you said you were going to come on, because my whole thing is I'm imagining that a lot of the people that are listening to our show probably aren't listening to your show. They probably will be, but they didn't start. So that is just the most awesome thing. So let me ask you this. I want to end it like this, and man, I cannot tell you how excited I have been talking about this for weeks since you said, oh, you have no idea. This is just one of those things where I feel like, when people talk about this stuff, if you say you believe in this stuff, people automatically they make a face, they make a judgment.
Yep.
And it's just like, hey, you believe in God. That, I mean, okay, yeah. That's and I don't want to disparage religion, but that's a thing that is a complete faith and imaginary, right? Okay.
They make fun of you unless they've seen it themselves, unless they've experienced it themselves, and then they greet you like, oh man, now I have someone who's gone through the same thing as me. Whatever that thing is, we don't know.
Right. And I feel bad. One of my buddies, he was stuck at work today, and he was supposed to be on the show, and he is a big believer. But let me ask you this last question right here. Do you see a time when aliens just drop down and say, hey, everybody, we're here, and this is who we are? Is that coming?
I don't know. What I think is coming, though, I think that at some point we're going to get some kind of an explanation on what UFOs are, and I think it will come from the government. I think that things that have happened in the past 2 years, okay, the government finally coming out and actually saying, okay, we're looking into these things, even as bad as it is, even as lame it has been so far. You like to think you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but then you think, well, why be public about it in the first place? But anyway, they have that out there. They have admitted that the Tic Tac videos exist and they don't know what they are. That's a big, big, big step. Okay. Number two, the James Webb Telescope, is launched. And, once, it isn't even working yet. There's all these spectacular photos. At some point, they're going to point that thing to literally back into the universe. The universe is a time machine. The light you see from a star now could have left that star, 26 million light years ago. But if they look, and they might, if you can look past 13.2 billion years, you're going to see what the Big Bang was. And that's coming. That's going to happen within the next 5 or 10 years to us. We will know what happened before the universe began. Now, how can that not affect us? That's a strange thing. You're right. Why doesn't the media pay more attention to something that people are so fascinated with? It's beyond me. If I was running CNN, I would have like a UFO report every day at 12:30, and everyone would watch it. It would be the highest rated thing on their news. It would be, because so many people are into it, but they just don't do it, and it's very strange that they don't. But answering your question, I'm going to say within the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to know what UFOs are.
Wow, that is, that just, to me, I love that somebody who knows so much is saying that, because that's just, it makes me excited, to think about that, right? Like, each day, and anybody who's on the fence, or if you believe that you could wake up, at some point in the next, few years, 5, 10 years, whatever it is, and we can see that. I feel like I would run outside and just like say, like, I find my buddies who like they don't believe it. I just be like, in your face. There it is.
Yeah. See,
I don't think so much the UFO. I think it's like what's going to come out of the UFOs. That's the scary thing. The UFO is just a vessel. The UFO is a vessel. It's like what's in the UFO. That's the scary thing. We don't know we don't know what that entity is.
See, here's the thing too. There's one more thing too, is that I saw, we talked about Isaac Asimov earlier. He's a great science fiction writer.
Awesome.
And I saw him speak once, and someone said, questions from the audience, and they said, besides, the car and the automobile and stuff like that, what is your favorite invention? I'll never forget this. He said, the lightning rod. He goes, because what the lightning rod did, all the lightning rod is just a little piece of metal, tin, right? You put it on your roof. Before that, if lightning hit your house, that was God's way of saying that the people who lived in that house were witches, or they were cursed or whatever. They burn you with a stake and stuff. And he says that huge thing was solved by a little thin piece of metal. So we think UFOs and stuff are people from out of planets, out of dimensions, whatever. It might simply be something like, we're going to explain lightning. It might not be. The chances are good that it isn't anything we can conceive of. So, but I do believe that we're going to know what they are. We're going to know what they are within the next 5 to 10 years. Wow. Just my prediction.
That is, you know what? That is the greatest prediction of all time. I absolutely love that. No, listen. You know what?
You should have heard my Super Bowl prediction last year.
Wait a minute. Did you have the Rams?
Who's your Super Bowl prediction right now?
Another show. Yeah.
It's not the Chicago Bears, I'm assuming.
It's not going to be it's not Chicago, not Indy, not Indianapolis either.
It's not going to be the Colts and the Bears. So
it could be Buffalo. Could be Buffalo.
Oh, you know what? I absolutely 100% would agree with you on that one.
The Dolphins are looking pretty good right now. The Dolphins.
Yeah. Oh man.
Just for right now, just for right this minute. So.
But now, right. But the Buffalo, I'm a Patriots fan, and for Buffalo to be on top of things, it's awful. It's crushing. But they got the team. They put together the team. I don't like them, but
no, I mean for a small market town, Buffalo is doing. I mean, it's like Green Bay. It's like they're doing terrific. So here's my last question. Here's my last question for you. So you're in Boston. So I just want to know this: lobster roll or crab cakes?
Yeah, it's I hate to be like this, but I'm allergic to lobster. As it turns out.
That's
always
that's not your fault. That's okay.
It's crab cake.
That's not your fault. Okay, good, because that's my favorite too. Okay, good.
My DNA, yeah.
Right answer.
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure,
absolutely.
So am I the third idiot? Is that it? Am I the third idiot? There's 3 idiots.
No, not at all. So
you're a special guest.
So and everybody who listens on a regular basis knows we started with 3 guys in our first show.
Yeah.
And the funniest story, and I'll tell it now because no one knows this. So I'm glad you asked.
The first guy had a baby grand piano dropped on him and he died.
No, that is no. So you ready?
Okay,
no, I'll tell the story. This is funny that Mac brought it up, so I'm going to tell it. So he stupidly told his wife he was doing this show, and she listened to the show, and she told him he couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I have never told. Listen, it's so funny. I've never told that story, and it doesn't bother me to tell it now. Yeah. So.
Why do you think Howard Stern is divorced? It cost him $200 million.
Yeah. So
his wife listened to the show.
Exactly. So we sat in a bar.
Does it have $1 billion in Sirius radio stock anyway? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But funny. The funniest thing is, Mac. After the first week, we sat in the bar, and he goes, oh guys, yeah. I go, what's the matter? He goes, I let my wife listen to this show, and I'm just like, okay, so you're out? And he goes, yeah, I'm out.
Well, that was easy. So he basically he Wally pipped himself.
Yeah. Wally pipped himself. Right. Yeah. He needed an aspirin. Yep.
Yeah. And so we've just kind of been we've been throwing guys in and out. We had one guy who was pretty regular and he decided to drop out. Right now he is in somewhere in Alaska.
He's a fire watcher.
He's a fire watcher in Alaska.
Cool.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, so he just took off and he's doing that. So we'll have a third idiot, but no, I don't want you to think at any point that I don't want you going around. I don't want
No. I feel kind of left out.
Did we get ghosted?
Yeah, I was number 3.
Yeah, no, okay. Mac, you can be the honorary third idiot anytime you would like. Okay.
Excellent. Yes.
Listen,
thank you very much.
Hey, listen. I am thanking you. Like I said, from the second that you said yes to this, I honestly was terrified that you would listen to the show and be like, "Oh man, I'm not going on a show with these buffoons." But
have you heard our show?
Buffoon singular.
I have. You know what's funny? Your show with the interaction you have and with the fellas, it seems very synonymous with what we do. You guys do it on a different level with with ghosts and paranormal and the UFO and all that kind of stuff, and we just do it. We just do it in a different different venue. So
I understand. Yeah. It's cool though. Very cool.
Yeah, so I mean, you got me hooked. I listened to 2 shows now. I listened to this show to see how stupid I sound, and I listened to your show. Listen,
wow.
I love it. I loved every second of it. I was dropping around into different things when you guys were talking about different places and different things. So yeah, you got me hooked, man.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, no problem. So listen, thanks for being on the show. Hopefully, maybe we'll get together and we'll do something else, because we're delving into all sorts of craziness. And listen, thanks again. And it was fantastic, man.
Well, I had a good time. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on. Appreciate it, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Mac. All right, Mac. Take care.
You too. Thanks.
All right, everybody. This was my favorite show of all time. Listen, man, Teddy, Teddy, there is. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, Teddy's doing like this dick sucker thing, like I'm some kind of super fan. But listen to me. I love this. Listen, so many people hear this stuff and they completely dismiss it, right? And it's like not real. It's not a thing. But I can tell you this right now. There is a lot of weird shit in this world. And if you think for 1 second all of that weird shit is made up, you're living a weird life.
I agree 100%. I mean, yeah, there's some conspiracy theories, absolutely. But yeah, is there some real truth in there somewhere that we're not privy to? Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
It's X-Files, man.
Of course,
the truth is out there somewhere.
Yeah, we don't know.
All right, so Teddy, Mack is gone. Oh, God, it's so great. Leave us with something intelligent. For the first time ever.
Who's playing football tonight?
Oh, man, yes. Teddy and I are going to go over to Howard Street and we're going to watch Pittsburgh play Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland.
And it is not going to be exciting. Okay. It is no. Cleveland's a dead zone. No matter what happens to Cleveland, it's Cleveland. You know what Cleveland is?
Mistake by the lake.
No, you know what? No,
That's really
no.
curious.
Somebody said Cleveland was a pile of turds, and I will tell you that Cleveland is not a pile of turds. It's the flies that fly around a pile of turds. All right, listen, everybody. I had a blast. Let me remind you that next week we are having our astrologer on, and man, it is going to be the show of shows.
Is she doing a tarot card reading?
She is tarot. She's reading you, bro.
Cool.
Yeah,
she's gonna be winning Powerball numbers. So she needs to give me some.
God. Listen, if you bring that up, I will literally jump the 10 feet and I will beat your ass right in front of her. Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a great week. I have a smile on my face. My entire face is a giant smile right now. So listen, believe, don't believe, do whatever. But you know what? Tune in next week because I'll tell you what. Every week is going to be a week better than the week before. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great night. Enjoy.